And I love how it lets you know. All right, hello, welcome everyone to the CSLP 2022 Oceans of Possibilities webinar. I will just have a couple of announcements to share and then we will get started. First of all, to register for other webinars or trainings available from the Professional Development Office, please see the Indiana State Library's events calendar, which can be found on our website at www.in.gov/library, and then it's under Services for Libraries. This session is about an hour and you're eligible to receive 1 LEU for this presentation. If you're watching a recording of this webinar in the future, instructions on how to obtain your LEU will be in the video's description on YouTube, or you can find those instructions on ISL's continuing education site under LEU policies. But in short, when you watch a recording, your director or someone in HR should create that LEU certificate for you because they're the ones who can verify that you watched. Okay, I think we are ready to get started. Let me just move my screens around here. And 1 second. I'll go ahead and advance. There we go. Okay, welcome to CSLP 2022, our virtual training. And if you don't know me already, my name is Beth Yates. I am the Children's Consultant at the Indiana State Library in our Professional Development Office. I also happen to be the Indiana State Representative for the Collaborative Summer Library Program, and CSLP is that organization that comes up with the common themes that you probably use every year. This year is Oceans and Oceanography, as again, I hope you probably know already, and the slogan is Oceans of Possibilities. CSLP, just FYI, is a nonprofit that is run almost completely by volunteers. There are literally 2.5 employees. There's an executive director who kind of keeps everything running. There is an administrative person, and then there is a part-time person who helps now to get the manual all organized. So other than that, it's run by volunteers, and those volunteers might be state reps who work at state libraries much of the time, like I do, as well as many, many public librarians across the US and in fact, in some US territories as well. And we operate by committee. So there's an art committee, a vendor committee, a manual committee, and many, many more committees. And if you're ever interested in participating, if you have some opinions or you have some thoughts and you want those to be heard, we encourage you to volunteer. We open those committees to new volunteers every fall. I usually try to get that announced on the listservs. So keep your eyes peeled starting in late August of next year, or you can reach out to me anytime. You could email me after this training and say, Beth, I would really love to participate in some sort of committee. Tell me more. And I'll keep track of that and make sure that I let you know next year. The other thing that I'm super proud of is that will actually become the president of CSLP in January of 2022. So while I can't make everything perfect or exactly how you might want it to be, because it is a national program with lots of voices, I do have an ear I do have an ear of the board. So, you know, I can listen to your concerns and I can let them know. I just ask that you present them to me nicely. Okay, also just a quick reminder that the Indiana State Library does pay the membership dues for all public libraries in this state so that you have the right to use these materials or not use them to whatever extent you wish. So, you know, you can use just the theme, just the slogan, you can use the artwork or not. You could use the, you know, we hope that you'll use the manual, but you don't have to. But those are all things that we provide to you. And then you don't have to use any of it if you really, really don't want to. Although we think it will hopefully make your lives a little easier if you do. Here's our agenda for today. Going to start out with a few basics about summer reading. Then we'll talk about CSLP updates. I'm going to share some resources with you, and then we'll do the wrap up. And like I said, we're going to start out talking about some of the basics of summer reading. I know many of you have been doing this for years and years, but we also have more and more new folks joining us. There's been a lot of turnover the past couple of years. And so I just want to make sure that everyone feels at least somewhat prepared, or they have a general idea of some of the things that you need to consider when you're thinking about summer reading. Oh, and I also do want to start out by mentioning that sometimes I get this question about what is required by law according to Indiana Code when it comes to reading programs. And the Indiana Code just says that a library system, quote, shall offer a children's reading program for a minimum of 6 weeks at each fixed location annually. And a fixed location is just like a branch. It's your main library or your branch. That's as opposed to like a bookmobile or something, or some temporary location. But the thing that's missing there is the word summer. So they removed the word summer a few years ago when they updated the code. And this was to free libraries up to offer the program whenever it works for them. You know, there was a trend, and I think some schools, have moved to year-round school, or at least they've shortened some of their breaks. And so I think they had that in mind when they were coming up with this new rule. But ultimately, we want you to be able to work with whatever is best in your community. So, you know, like maybe people stop coming in July because it's your local county fair time. So maybe you only want to do 4 weeks. And then you could do the other 2 weeks or even more later in the year, like a winter program or something. You can break it up however you want to. It doesn't have to be consecutive. And of course, you can always do more than 6 weeks. It's up to your library to do what works best for you. How many of you knew that? And how many of you, is that a new thing you'd never heard before? You can tell me in the chat. New-ish, did know this. New, great, good. Okay, I am impressed by how many people did know it. That's great. But if you didn't know, now you do. Okay, so no matter how you decide to do your program, I want to encourage you all to start with a goal in mind. So why does your library offer summer reading? What are you trying to accomplish other than meeting the state requirement, right? Obviously, that is technically a goal. But what are you trying to accomplish? Why does your library offer that program? Who are you trying to reach? What do you hope happens as a result of the program? What impact do you hope to have in your community through the program? You might have different goals for different age groups, and that's okay. And goals might include things like, we want to reach some people who have never been in the library before, or we want to give some kids a chance to feel good about themselves, maybe boost their confidence in their reading skills. We want to give the community a chance to come together and accomplish something. And it doesn't need to be numbers related. In fact, I would recommend really that it's not numbers related. I think that's kind of a common goal. I know that my old library used to do that. We would say, we want to grow our program a certain percentage, and it's okay to have those goals, it is, but to have a deeper goal is ideal, because we know now, especially from the past few years, that numbers don't always reflect the impact that we have, and that they really aren't totally reliable, at least as far as showing the impact. So I also want to just mention that you're not a failure if you don't get hundreds of new participants each year. If your program does not grow every year, your library is not a failure, you're not a failure. It's okay. Because ultimately, you need to, or the goal in theory is, you know, what kind of impact you're having in your community. And again, that will vary from location to location. So I hope you'll take a look at your community, what it needs, have a conversation with your coworkers about these types of goals. And I do want to say that if that feels really overwhelming, which I understand it might, just try to start small. And maybe this summer you just pick one thing that you want to do. Just one small goal. Maybe you just want to reach a new population in your community or something. But that's, again, that's up to you. If you are brand new to running a summer reading program, or even if you just want to consider another way of doing it, there are several things to think about. And this is where I'm going to ask you all to share again in the chat here in just a minute on some of these different things so that we can kind of see how other people do things. I think that can be really valuable, even if we've been doing it for years and years. So first of all, of course, is the length of your program. So now you know you don't have to do an 8-week program in the summer, which is kind of what many libraries used to do. You can, but you don't have to. So what makes the most sense in your community? And I'd love it if you'd all share in the comments, how long did your program run last summer so that other folks can get an idea of what people are doing? And if you already know how long it will be this coming summer, you could also say that, or you could say that instead, either way. Lots of 8 weeks, okay. This summer 6, so some people are shortening them a little. Great. So between 6 and 8 weeks seems to be really common. 6 weeks, programmed for 9, okay. Okay, so yeah, 6 to 8 weeks seems to be the most common number. Definitely some variation in there, but for the most part. Okay, thank you. All right. So the next one is, what is the focus of your program? Will you only allow people to read? Do you allow folks to do other things for credits? Many libraries have moved or are moving towards allowing patrons to do other stuff, like maybe create things. They could write a story or draw a picture. Or maybe you can go to local events like a local museum, or maybe you go to the zoo and you get credit for that instead of just reading. And the theory there is that they are still learning and still getting some benefit out of those activities. So some have even changed their names from summer reading to summer learning, or even the more general summer program, or something else completely. So tell me in the chat, what does your library, oops, I'm going crazy here. What does your library call your program? And do you allow more than just reading? Aubrey says just reading. Denise says they call it summer reading still. And if you call it summer reading, can they only read, or do they do something else? Oh, Denise says summer learning. Rhonda says at their library, teens can actually attend events. So that's another thing some libraries say, if you go to a library program, that they can earn credit that way too. Count books read. Just reading minutes. Reading and learning. Summer reading club. Okay, so Kathy Butcher says they call it summer reading club to kind of encompass everything. So that's a good example of like an alternative name. Just reading. Summer reading, summer reading. So sounds like most libraries here are still calling it summer reading, and that's totally fine. Great. Okay. All right. So our next thing, get to it. So whether or not you're allowing more than just reading, you do have to decide how you'll track everything. So for the reading portion, I've heard of libraries using pages read, or maybe they assign points to different types of books. But I think right now, the most popular way to count is by using time. So it's usually minutes read. And it's considered to be, most people consider it to be the most fair way to count, because it's an equalizer for people who are slower readers. So they're still putting in the time, even though they might not get as much read. And ultimately, that's kind of the most important part. So for instance, at the library where I used to work, at least when I was there, it's been a few years, but when I was there, they did time, and then they also allowed other activities besides reading. So they just said each activity is worth 30 minutes towards the end goal. So you would get 30 minutes of credit if you attended a library program, or 30 minutes of credit if you went to a museum, whatever it was. So again, tell me in the chat, what does your library use for counting books, pages, points, minutes, or something else? Or what did you use last year or this coming year? And if you're not sure yet what you're going to do, you can say that too. Minutes, time. Bingo sheets. Oh, that's another great one. So time. Okay. Minutes, definitely taking the lead here. Still planning, that's totally fine too. Yeah, Robert says they use time, but the idea of attending library programs or investigating places on their own for additional time is very interesting. Yeah, it took me a little while, 10 years ago or whatever, to kind of come around to that idea, but now I think it's really invaluable. I think it's a great way. It also makes it really accessible to some folks who maybe aren't super strong readers, or maybe they're just not as interested in reading, but they're still getting out, they're doing things in their community. They're still participating in stuff, and that can be just as important, especially, if they're coming to library programs. That's great too. Oh, circulation on punch cards, time, titles. Aren't sure. Totally fine. All right. The next one is goals, and that's kind of connected to how you're recording it. We discussed how the library should have a goal for the program, kind of what you want to accomplish, why you're doing the program. But this is a little different, even though it is connected. This one is, how much do your patrons need to read or do in order to complete the program? And I've seen this very widely also. So if your overall goal for the program is to encourage and empower your community to read and participate, then you might want to make the goal something that is somewhat easy to achieve so that more people can be successful. Or not. Maybe that's not what you're concerned with. Some libraries even let patrons set their own goals. And I think that sometimes can work really well, because those who want that challenge can make it challenging for themselves. Those who just kind of want to participate can make it a little easier on themselves. Again, it does depend a lot on what your library wants to accomplish with the program. So tell me in the chat again, what was your library's completion goal for the program last year? So for instance, my old library, it was you had to read or do activities for 15 hours. And you got a prize at 5, 10, and then your final prize at 15. Okay, Amanda says they don't set specific goals. They just want people to come in and participate. Totally legit. Marlene agrees. 20 hours for all ages. Oops, they're flying by now. 20 hours for all ages for the last 2 years, before 20 for younger and 40 for teens. Your goal is 20 titles. Okay, there's somebody who uses pages and books. Color and objects that correlate to minutes. Okay. Ooh, Kim says we don't set goals either. We set up adventures. Ooh, I like that. Several folks say they use bingo cards, and that is great. That can be a really fun way for them to participate. I've seen that especially with early literacy, like the birth through age, 5-ish. You can do different literacy activities and have that be their goal. So it's and it's intended for the families to do with them, or parents or caregivers to do with the child. So, you know, let's sing a song, that counts as something. Let's read a picture book from the library, that counts as something, etc. All right. So some of this is kind of overlapping with the next one, which is online or paper. How do your patrons track participation? What is the best option for your library and community? So some go online only, some do paper only, and some do a combo of those two things. And if your library can't afford an online tracker, please don't feel bad about only using a paper tracker. On the resource document that I'll talk about later and that I'm going to be sharing, I include a link to some online tracking companies that the State Library of Colorado, compiled a few years back. So if you want ideas, you can check that out. I think there are some very low cost ones on there. But tell me in the chat, what did your library use last year? Paper or online or a mix? And you can include the company if you want to. So Beanstack, for instance, somebody just said. Lots of paper, lots of Beanstack, some Read Squared, paper only. Great. Both. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, last one that I'm going to talk about today anyway is what will you offer as prizes? So traditionally, libraries often give out small prizes for hitting benchmarks, and then sometimes a larger prize or even like a book or something like that for finishing the program. But in recent years, many have moved away from the smaller trinket prizes. I know they're still really popular some places, and that's fine. Again, it's a situation of what works best for your community. But I have heard of libraries giving away, for instance, entries in a prize drawing for larger prizes, like tickets to the zoo or tickets to a theme park, or maybe a prize basket of some type. My very favorites lately have been community prizes, which is where when participants hit certain levels, they earn the right to vote. They put in a vote for one of a few different larger community prizes at the end. And then the library uses the money they would have spent on the prizes to pay for that larger thing. So for instance, they might install a story walk near the library, or they might start a video game collection if they didn't have one already, things like that. They usually talk to their community and figure out what would be the best for them. And it's based on what their community might want or need. So one more time, tell me in the chat, what did your library offer as prizes last year? And you don't have to necessarily get specific. You can just say, we did the small prizes, or we did giveaways, or, and just a heads up, I think that there is something where we're not really supposed to call those giveaways raffles, just a heads up, because that's like gambling, and we're not allowed to gamble as public, or encourage gambling or run gambling as public entities, government entities. So we usually say a prize drawing, right? Small incentives and coupons are also always really great if you can get enough places in your community to donate. Chamber bucks. Oh, $10 cards that can be used locally. That's nice. Like Chamber of Commerce, I assume. Food coupons, prizes, small prizes. Just scrolling through. Drawing. So it seems like still the small prizes, the drawings, coupons. Those are all some of the most popular ones still. Those are great too. Yeah, we used to give away books as our final prize too. And then you could also enter to win a prize basket. Great. Okay. You know, actually, I'm going to insert one more thing here, because I didn't think to add this earlier, but age groups. Who will you offer this to? So I really recommend that if you can, you make this a program for birth through adults, because I know sometimes you think that birth through age 5 or 6, they can't read on their own, but it's a great opportunity, like I mentioned earlier, to have the parents and caregivers interact with them and help them with those early literacy skills by reading to them, singing with them, things like that. So definitely don't leave them out. Yay. Yeah. And you can let me know in the chat, what do you do at your library? 0 to 100 plus. Great. Yay. Wonderful. Okay. All right, now we'll move on. Okay, so we're gonna talk about some CSLP updates now. So first of all, access to the CSLP program manual is online again this year. We moved to online only the past few years because it truly does provide the exact same, and in fact, more access to materials and ideas than the flash drives did, because we keep updating it, which I'll talk about in just a second. You can download that manual if you want it in whole or in pieces, just like you could from the flash drive. Same with the artwork. You can download it just like you would from the flash drive. I know that some folks still wish that we sent out the paper manuals. We haven't done that for a number of years because of various factors. They're, it's kind of expensive. The shipping's expensive. They're very bulky. But if you do really, really want a print copy, you can print it out yourself, actually. Or if that's too many pages to print or it's too expensive to print yourself, you can also buy one from the CSLP online shop. I think they're only about $10. So it's not too terrible if you want to throw that in on top of, if you're ordering other things at the same time. So that is a possibility. And I also want to mention that I do recognize that some rural libraries, especially that your internet might be just not stable enough or too slow to comfortably and easily download things. So if that is the case for you, please shoot me an email, reach out to me, or have your director reach out to me, and we can discuss your options, okay? Otherwise, though, I think for the most part, most libraries in Indiana should have a fairly good internet connection. So hopefully you won't have too much trouble doing that. I actually created a video that walks you through how to access the online manual. And like I said, I have a resource sheet that I will talk more about later. And that tutorial video is linked on the resource sheet in case you need it. And CSLP has also created a tutorial video on how to access the manual, and that is also linked on the resource sheet. So between the two, hopefully you will have a clear picture of how to get to things. But if you ever need help, just let me know. And of course, you will need a manual code to access the online manual. I sent that out via email to library directors back in September, and then I actually just resent it yesterday because there were a good number of directors who I think missed it. That happens every year. It's not a big deal. Things go wrong sometimes with email, spam, lost in inboxes, etc. So if your director still says that they never received it, please just have them or someone else who's they designate from your library reach out to me, and I will happily send that along. The only thing I do ask is, try to avoid having 15 people from the same library reach out to me. If you could just get like one person, that would be great. One new thing of note is actually that they have eliminated the need to log in to the CSLP website before accessing the manual. I can't talk. You used to have to log into the CSLP website, and then you'd go to the manual downloads, and then you'd have to enter the code, and then you could get to the manual. Well, they've at least eliminated one of those steps. So you no longer have to log in. You can just go to the website, go straight to the manual download tab there that's orange on your screen, and just enter your code and you are good to go. Yeah, Kathy, I was very happy about that. Also, the look of the online manual itself has changed a little bit. So you can see here. I hope that you'll find it a little easier to navigate. We definitely, as a volunteer organization, we learn a little and we improve a little bit more every year. So we're hoping that this is better for you. Your experience is better. That being said, if there is something specific that you can't locate, please just let me know and I will see if I can locate it for you, or I can talk to someone at the home office and figure out where it is. And we will again be updating the site through the next several months. I mentioned this a second ago. We'll keep updating it to add public library shared items. So if you create a really cool reading tracker or some program component that you think other libraries might find useful, or a handout or a poster or something that you want to share, you can send it to me and I'll send it to the CSLP office and see if they want to upload it, or you can reach directly out to them also if you want to. I also want to mention that the CSLP online store is open already and it is shipping things out. I think they had a couple of supply chain issues, just like the rest of the world, and certainly the US has had, but I believe at last report, they had received pretty much everything into their warehouse and things are available and should be ready to go. And that is also, that website is linked from the resource sheet also. Oh, and by the way, did you notice they have beanies this year? So order yourself a beanie that says, "Love my library." And there's also socks. I think that's really cool. Okay, let's look at the artwork. Sophie Blackall is our artist this year, and I imagine probably a lot of you youth services librarians anyway know the Ivy and Bean series, which she illustrates. I also wanted to show you Hello Lighthouse, which I'm realizing now is a little bit pixelated, so apologies for that, but she wrote and illustrated it, and it of course served for inspiration for some of this year's art. So definitely check that one out. I bet you have it in your library. And she has, of course, illustrated a ton more books. She's got a really distinctive style, I think. And we're gonna look at the posters next. So on the left is what they're calling the early literacy poster, and on the right is the children's poster. I think they're really cohesive. I think you could definitely use any of the art this year across the board, and I don't think it would stand out as being super different from, I know in past years that has been a thing that some folks didn't love, was that sometimes the teen looked very different from the children's. I think that they all have a similar feel because she has such distinctive style. Let's look at the teen and the adult. Might take a second. There it goes. So there's the teen on the left and the adult on the right. And in some ways, I was looking at her art and it's almost like some of the characters from the early literacy kind of age up into the children's and kind of age up into the teen. I don't know if that was her intention, but there are some kids who kind of look like maybe they're the same kids and they've just aged up. Again, that might just be my thing, but. Oh, great. Someone has already received their order and the posters are nice. Yay. That makes me happy. And as usual, we call them early lit, children's, teen, and adult, but you can use any or all of them, whatever you like better. You know, just because you're a teen librarian, if you like the adult poster better, you can use that. That's okay. Or if your whole library wants to pick just one of them, that's fine. Use them as you like. Okay, let's move on to resources for program planning. I have mentioned that there will be a resource sheet that will be available to you, and a link to the sheet will be posted on the ISL archived webinar page where this training is posted. But I also just want to show you where you can find that document on our website in case you want to go find it yourself. So if you go to the Indiana State Library's website, and then over on the left in the menu over here is Services for Libraries. You click on that and it'll open up this page. In the top, in the middle, are two columns, professional development and library development. And under professional development is resources for librarians serving youth. And that is what you will want to select. And then if you scroll down a little bit on that resources for youth, the second kind of headline section is the collaborative summer library program section. And you should see all of the resources listed there. And I want to highlight just a couple of things today. The first one is that CSLP 2022 resources for program planning. That's the one I keep talking about. And then also the CSLP program ideas for 2022 Oceans of Possibilities. That one says coming soon because it is not created yet, but it should be here in the next few weeks. You might also note that below both of those is program ideas from past years. And that's just a long list of program ideas from past years, just like it says. And they're separated by age group. So you could browse that any time of year if you just kind of, you're like stuck, you can't think of a program, go in there, take a browse through, see if something strikes your fancy, and maybe that can help you out. So this is what that resource document looks like. And it used to be a PDF, but now this year it's a website so that I can update it more easily and quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and put that link in the chat for you all. You don't have to go look at it now because I will, like I said, also, I'll send it out. There it is. I'll send it out in a follow-up email. I will have it posted with the recording of this. It'll be in lots of different places, but there it is to start. And then back to the CSLP resources page, the youth services resource page. As I have the past 5 or 6 years, I hope to collect and compile and share program ideas that you all give to me. So if you're attending one of the roundtables that are coming up, I will be collecting ideas there. Plus you can submit ideas at any time via link on the resource sheet. And the resource sheet, the link is there at the very top. Here's the title. Submitted here is where you would submit your program idea. And this is the form that it will take you to. And you just fill it out. Give me as much information as you possibly can about your program, because you have to think of it, people will just be kind of reading your description and they have to know what you mean and how they would do a program based on your description. You don't have to go step by step, but you have to give enough information so that someone can go, oh, okay, that's a great idea. Let me see what I can do. So let me see if I can get that form to submit ideas pulled up for you. And I'll put that link in the chat also. So it's there. Eventually, all those ideas will go into a sortable Excel sheet, just like this one. This is the one from last year. You could sort it by age group. You could sort it by whether it was virtual or in person or both. And my goal is, since I have a roundtable on Monday, is to get the ideas that I collect from that one up by the end of the year or very beginning of next year. And of course, don't forget the roundtables. Just one more time, I got to plug them. Like I said, we have one coming up on Monday and then 2 more in January. And if you attend one of those, please, please, please bring a program idea to share with others, because that is how this works. That is how these roundtables work, is we definitely want to, it's a chance for you all to chat, to share, to get ideas, to problem solve. And so it doesn't work if people don't come prepared to share. So definitely do. And FYI, the program doesn't have to be oceans related. It could be, but it doesn't have to be. Okay. So other resources, back to the manual. This is the program manual for this year. And we already discussed that you have digital access this year. And I really, really encourage you to peruse the manual. And at the very least, take a look at the table of contents, because I believe that you will find a lot of great ideas here, many of which can be adapted to in-person or virtual, and they will save you from reinventing the wheel. And in some cases, they include printables and activity sheets. So check it out. I'm not saying every one of these is, you know, a brand new groundbreaking idea, but I think you will find some that maybe you didn't think of, or maybe it is an idea that you thought of, but it has ideas for activities you can do that you had not thought of. So definitely check them out. As it did last year, the manual also includes a guide to getting started for those who have never run a summer reading program before. So lots of great things to consider in there. Check it out if you need inspiration. So I'm really excited about this resource. Hopefully you've heard of the CSLP Summer Symposium by now. I kept talking about it on the listservs. CSLP unfortunately did have some technical issues that prevented everyone who registered from entering. Our limit was supposed to be 10,000, and the WebEx platform we were using stopped allowing people in at 1,000. Definitely threw a bump in things for us and for all of you. So I apologize if any of you had registered but weren't able to get in. I feel terrible about that. I actually was on the planning committee for the entire thing, so it was a real bummer. But the recordings were actually posted. We posted them last night. But to add insult to injury, there were a couple of issues with some of the recordings, and namely the programming session, which was, of course, the one I wanted to highlight the most today. It is up, but it recorded their faces of the presenters instead of the slides that they were sharing. So they are working on a fix for that. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we will be able to have a fixed webinar that is lovely and perfect for you to view. But in the meantime, the original recording is up there and their slides are up there. So here's an example of one of their slides. So you can see, you can go right in, view the slides, and slides actually link directly out to all of those various program ideas that they discuss in the webinar. So really, if you're just looking for program ideas, just go to the slides and you can go and you can like click on the links and you can examine and see what there is. I have a question in the chat. Is the chat from that presentation going to be posted as well as the ideas attendees gave? Brittany, yes, the presenters were actually I was just emailing with them before. They're getting the chat and they're going to try to edit it down to save like the ideas and things so that all the extraneous stuff is not in there. So it's easier to read. Otherwise, it's just one long stream of people talking. So it's easier if they edit it into the individual ideas. So they're working on that one too. So that should also go up. I wanted to mention, this is separate, but on that resource sharing list, I provided you with a list of ocean-centric topics that I came up with to get you started. So this is available to you on that resource sheet. Again, if you just need to jog your brain and start thinking of stuff, this could be a place to start. The National CSLP program has their own Pinterest page, and there are boards, I believe, one for each age group. So the homepage is linked from the resource sheet. You know, we all love Pinterest, and this is, you know, sometimes Pinterest can almost be overwhelming. So this is a place to start. The Indiana Young Readers Center, which is part of the Indiana State Library, has again created an activity guide, which kind of links the services of ISL to the theme of oceans this year. Very excited about it. It's great. So here's the front page on the left and some program ideas on the right. That's just an example. I know it's a little text heavy there, so you might not be able to read it because it's pretty little. But it's basically some program ideas for school age kids about how to craft or come up with crafts that don't use plastic, because we know plastic does not really break down, and it unfortunately is a really big polluter in our oceans. This guide was created by Suzanne Walker, and there's ideas for early elementary, and there are ideas for teens as well in the guide. But Suzanne Walker, a lot of you know her. She's fantastic. And we're lucky that she agreed to create this document again. And she also provided some book lists of relevant titles about oceans, and they're all by Indiana authors. So, woohoo, go Suzanne. We love our Indiana authors here at the State Library. If you need, speaking of book lists, if you need ideas for ocean related books and how to use them, CSLP comes up with a book list every year, and those are in the manual, but Teaching Books has posted them in their database. They've made them a list, and they've made sure that each one of those books has supporting materials of some kind. So if you want to do some activities centering around some of these books, there are ideas there. So I have posted a direct link to the list. It should work as long as you're inside of Indiana in theory, because Teaching Books is available for free via the Indiana State Library's Inspire collection of databases. So again, you just have to be in Indiana. If you have any issues accessing it and you're an Indiana resident, then there's a help desk on the Inspire main page, and you can let them know if you have issues. Where do you go to find the fonts that were used in the artwork? Funny, you should ask, Kathy, because I actually put them. They are available in the manual, or on the website, sorry, but I put them on the resource sheet. So they are right there, and they are all free and available online. So if you scroll down, it's at the very bottom of the resource sheet. Let's talk social media. There are a few groups on Facebook that are definitely worth joining if you're already on Facebook and you're interested in doing that. CSLP has a homepage that I encourage you to follow. They post a lot of news and updates there. They also created a programming specific group last year that has been really successful and popular. You can share program ideas there. You can ask for advice, talk to other programming librarians. It's a good group to join. And then finally, the programming librarian interest group is not summer reading specific, but it is a nice general programming group to join. That one's run by ALA. You do not have to be a member of ALA to join it though. So those are all linked from the resource sheet also. Okay. Next, I would like to highlight some potential partners and also just some organizations with great ocean-related resources that you can use to build programs on a variety of ocean-related topics. So I'm going to move through these pretty quickly. I mostly just want to raise your awareness that they exist, and they are all linked from that resource page. So if you want to learn more, you can go there and then explore the websites. The Indiana DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, and of course our state parks, they offer interpretive services and programs. I'm sure probably most of you know that. Many of your libraries have probably even partnered with your local state park in the past. You'll probably want to reach directly out to the closest park to see what they can offer to you. But I have provided this link on the resource sheet that takes you to some of the most basic information about their group programs, just in case you're curious or if you need a place to start. I also want to mention that you don't have to do oceans exclusively this summer, because if you think about it, all water systems are connected through the water cycle, right? And you could talk about our local water sources. You could also go with like geology and the Earth's history, because they've actually found some pretty amazing fossils right here in Indiana from some of the prehistoric oceans that once covered where we are. The National Ocean Service is part of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, it's a tongue twister, which is a government agency. And they have a For Educators site. There's a link up there under education, where you can find facts and activities about a number of topics related to oceans. And of course, that is linked on the resource sheet. Ocean Today is also part of the NOAA, and it contains videos about the ocean realm. So you see some examples here on the screen. But you know, you could use these potentially in some sort of program about ocean animals, or just STEM related ocean programs. You could even potentially maybe show some of these on like if you have monitors in your library where you play things, maybe you could just play like some peaceful ocean videos. The National Marine Educators Association, or the NMEA, offers an ocean literacy pamphlet that you could print out that might be useful for you as you kind of look for resources as you plan a program. It also just might be of interest to some of your teens or adults. I think it's definitely kind of on a more of a teen adult level as far as the content, but you know, take a look and see if it's useful for you. Oh, Joyce says, I am pairing recycling and conservation with the ocean theme. Great. After 5 years, I recycle all our leftover summer reading materials and promote recycling and reuse, reduce ideas. That's great. That's a great idea. Okay, the next one is Project Wet. They offer water literacy resources also. So if you go up to educational resources there at the top, you can view various publications and activity ideas that center around water and water conservation. And Discover Water has a kid-friendly game section and information about water and conservation. So, you know, maybe you could use it during a program, or maybe you could put it on, you know, link to it on some of your kid computers. Just wanted to share in case you could find a use for it. Finally, some of you are hopefully familiar with the StarNet STEM Activity Clearinghouse. It's a really great resource for STEM programs. I've been promoting it for several years now because they give you full program plans, full program descriptions from what you need to do it all the way through how to do it, how long it'll take, etc. So they're really great. And I just searched for water, came up with 66 results. You know, some of them might be more directly related to water than others, but definitely take a look and see if there are some great ideas there. All right, I'm going to really quickly share some supplemental info because we are getting towards the end of our time. One of the things that I wanted to mention is statistics. If you have any questions about how to record statistics, there are going to be some changes in how to record things for programming statistics in 2022. So if you're unsure or you want to learn more about it, Angela Fox, who is a public library consultant here at the Indiana State Library, actually did a webinar back in October about this, and I have linked to it from the resource sheet. Also, I know many folks are still having trouble. People are not coming back into the library. So if you need ideas for how to figure out where people are and how to partner with organizations in your community, how to locate those organizations, check out one of our webinars, Where Do We Go From Here? Reaching Young Patrons Post-Pandemic, that I did with Christy Franzman earlier this year, and the one that we did at the symposium, What's Great About Your Community. Both of them are about something called community asset mapping, and they can really help you out. So check those out too. They're also linked from the resource sheet. And so just to wrap things up real quick, again, all the resources I shared today will be linked from that resource per program planning sheet. Let me grab that. I'm going to put all these links in here. I'm also going to put a link to register for the roundtables in here in the chat, but these will all be included also on a follow-up email. That's, again, please, please, please submit your ideas. We need them. We want them. Think of it as a take a penny, leave a penny philosophy. You share your idea and you might find another idea that you can use. There are those roundtable dates, and I dropped the link to register for them in the chat also. But reminder that the next one is this Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And that's it. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been helpful as you begin thinking about planning for this summer. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but I will stick around if anyone has questions. Thanks a lot. Thanks everybody for attending.